On Children's Day, I was walking my son through the amusement park when I bumped into my husband holding someone else's child. Standing beside him was Molly, the widow of a fallen comrade. The three of them looked utterly content, just like a happy family of three. The day before, he had clearly promised to spend the holiday with our son. But on Children's Day itself, he took a phone call and left. Our son was deeply disappointed. I comforted him, saying it might be something urgent with the military. Our son was understanding and didn't make a fuss. I took him to the amusement park, only to run into his father spending the holiday with another child. I confronted my husband, and he said, "You need to understand, our son has you. But Molly only has me." For 3 years, he kept visiting Molly's place, and I just thought it was deep comradeship. Until this moment, my heart turned completely cold. I handed him the divorce papers, but he regretted it. "Mom, can Dad take me to the amusement park again tomorrow?" Hearing my son's words, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. My husband is a veteran, and while his job isn't particularly demanding, he barely has any time to spend with our son. That's because whenever he has a moment free, he rushes over to Molly's place to help out. Molly's husband was Owen's comrade in arms, who died in combat 5 years ago. Since then, Owen has shouldered the responsibility of caring for her and their child. Even today, he rushed over to see Molly. But tomorrow is different. Their son has been looking forward to Children's Day for the past month. I hope his father can make time to spend with him on Children's Day. I reminded Owen long ago to keep this day free, but I still feel a bit uneasy. Worried he'll leave us two behind again to go find Molly. Seeing my son's eager face, I couldn't bring myself to say anything to dampen his spirits. I pulled him close and said, "Of course. Didn't you and Dad already plan this together?" Hearing my words, he beamed with joy and hugged me tightly, acting all cute. That evening, Owen returned home. The moment his son saw him, he dashed to his legs, calling out, "Daddy, Daddy." I walked over to remind Owen that tomorrow was Children's Day. Owen froze, his body stiffening almost imperceptibly. The boy tilted his little face up, his eyes sparkling brightly as he looked at him expectantly. "Daddy, you promised me. You haven't played with me in so long. Just one day, okay?" Owen hesitated for a moment before gently patting his son's head and lifting him up. "All right, tomorrow Daddy will take you out to have a great time. We'll play until you're completely satisfied, okay?" His son waved his little hands excitedly. "Yes. Daddy's the best." Watching the father and son embrace, the taut string in my heart finally relaxed. I convinced myself that perhaps I really was being overly sensitive. Owen did remember his son, remembered this family. Maybe he only held on to Molly out of duty. I shouldn't have doubted him. The next morning, my son woke up bright and early, excitedly getting dressed, washing his face, and brushing his teeth. He's such a good kid, even though Owen is often away, he never complains. Seeing my son so happy, I couldn't help but feel uplifted myself, and I started looking forward to the day ahead. After breakfast, our family was just about to head out when Owen's phone rang sharply. The ringtone sounded particularly jarring, and my heart skipped a beat. Every time Owen finished a call, he'd rush off, and I'd unconsciously grab his hand. I looked at him imploringly, and he glanced at me before pulling his hand away. He glanced at the caller ID and answered almost immediately, turning his back to me and speaking in a hushed tone. Yet I still caught a few scattered words. "Got it. Don't worry. I'll be right there. The child comes first." He hung up the phone, his face etched with anxiety. I looked at him, but he avoided my gaze and said rapidly, "Something urgent came up at work. I have to head over right away. You guys go ahead and have fun." He didn't even glance at his son before rushing off. "Daddy, you said you'd spend the whole day with me today." His son's voice trembled with tears. "Daddy lied. You promised me." Owen's body visibly stiffened. His lips moved as if to speak. But just then, the phone in his pocket began ringing again. He looked at his son, his voice tinged with impatience. Mason, listen. Daddy really has something important to do. You're a big boy now. Can't you just be reasonable? His son looked so upset he was close to tears. I asked, feeling a bit annoyed. Owen, why does it have to be you? You're his dad, can't you spare one day? You promised him, for crying out loud. Owen shot me a disapproving look. If the kid doesn't get it, fine. But you? I told you I had stuff to do. Isn't that what you're for? Why can't you two just go play yourselves? He hurled those cold words at me and strode out without looking back. The heavy slam of the door felt like a boulder crashing down on my heart. My son stopped crying but continued to shed tears of hurt. I crouched down, pulled him into my arms, and felt nothing but disappointment. The thought of divorce surfaced again in my mind, but then I looked at my son. He was still so little. And he had always longed for his father's love. Could I really go through with it? I soothed him, it's okay, don't cry. Mommy will play with you. My son is such a good boy. He wiped the tears from his own face and forced himself to smile. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not sad. I have Mom here with me. Watching him struggle to smile at me, that smile looked worse than crying. As I stood there in a daze, he reached out his small hand and clutched my finger tightly, with such dependence. My heart melted instantly, and I felt deeply indebted to this child. He was still at an age when he should be crying and fussing, yet he was forced to grow up too fast, pretending not to care. I don't need him anymore. I'll take the kids to the amusement park myself. Because it was Children's Day, the amusement park was packed with people. Parents were out with their children, and I held my son's hand tightly as we made our way through one ride after another. Since Owen left in a hurry that morning, there had been no word from him, no phone call, no text message. It felt as though Mason and I had been completely forgotten by him. I took a deep breath, letting the children's laughter around us temporarily distract me from the unpleasantness. I looked down at my son and asked, "What else would you like to buy?" To make it up to him, I told him to pick anything he wanted. But he only picked out a small dinosaur toy. Perhaps worried about wasting money, when I asked if he wanted anything else, he shook his head and refused. I recalled how Owen had been displeased when I bought toys for the children before. It all started because Owen took his son's toys and gave them to Molly. Naturally, his son wasn't happy about it. He scolded the child sternly. Can't you be more considerate? Seth doesn't have the same opportunities you do. Can't you just give him a few toys? Later, when I found out about this, I bought a bunch of toys. Owen started complaining again about my extravagance. You don't understand frugality at all. Buying so much for the kids, what if Seth finds out and asks Molly for the same? Have you even considered how she feels? You've really disappointed me. I had a huge argument with Owen over this incident. My son was so scared that he hasn't dared to ask Owen for anything since. Just thinking about it makes me furious all over again, and my son seems to have picked up on my mood. He tugged my hand and pointed to the ice cream truck nearby. I want that one. Shall we go get it together? His voice was soft, tinged with hesitation. I immediately replied, sure, let's go get it together. The line wasn't long, and soon it was my turn. I paid and took the ice cream. My son and I walked over to a nearby bench to eat it. I turned to look at him, but he'd stopped eating his ice cream and was staring intently across the way. I followed my son's gaze and turned in the direction he was looking. Standing a few steps away by the outer rail of the carousel were three people, Owen, Molly, and Molly's son Seth. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. I saw Seth perched on Owen's neck, his little hands excitedly clutching his short hair. Owen carried him steadily, while Molly stood right beside them. She stood on tiptoe, holding a pale blue handkerchief, gently wiping the sweat from Owen's forehead. Her movements were so natural, so intimate, as if they were the happy family of three. My son and I, like clowns, watched the man who should have been his father, my husband, tenderly caring for another woman and her child. I turned to look at my son. He caught my gaze and turned back to me. Mom, is that Dad? Did I mistake someone else for him? I didn't know how to respond, my anger slowly devouring my reason. Why don't we just ask him? I grabbed my son and rushed toward them. Owen! Owen whipped his head around, the smile still lingering on his face. The moment he recognized me, a flicker of panic crossed his face. Molly's hand, midway through wiping her brow, froze with the handkerchief suspended in midair. She turned to look at me, her smile brimming with smug satisfaction. Owen set Seth down, glanced around nervously, then walked over and grabbed my arm, demanding, "Why are you here? Why am I here? Didn't we agree from the start that we'd bring our son to the amusement park today? You really don't care, do you? You don't even remember this?" My tone was sharp. "I thought you deliberately brought that beauty to flaunt her in front of me." Owen's voice dropped, his brow furrowed as he looked at me. "What are you doing? This is a public place. Mind your behavior. Am I being unreasonable?" The sheer absurdity nearly made me laugh out loud, yet tears welled up uncontrollably. "Owen! What did you promise the child? And what did you tell us this morning? Is this the urgent matter you mentioned?" I sneered coldly. "So your urgent business is here, keeping someone else's wife and kids company, playing the role of a good dad and husband? Enough!" Owen snapped, his face darkening to a terrifying shade. His voice was dangerously low as he growled, "Enough. Can you stop being so unreasonable? Seth is the child of my comrade in arms. They're a widow and her child, out celebrating the holiday together when they ran into trouble. I happened to be there and helped out. What's wrong with that? Must you be so petty and nitpicky? Don't you have any compassion at all?" Compassion? I nearly ground my teeth to dust, trembling with rage. She's a pitiful widow with an orphan child, am I not the same? Owen! Have you no heart? Look at your own flesh and blood. He's been waiting for you for a whole month. Just for today. Have you ever felt the slightest bit of sympathy for him? Did you save all your damn sympathy for strangers? Before Owen could say anything, Molly stepped forward and gently tugged at his arm. Then she turned to me, her face full of innocence, her voice trembling with tears. "Don't blame Owen. It's all my fault. It's my fault. Seth insisted on coming to the amusement park, and I couldn't talk him out of it. Plus, he almost got lost this morning. I was so panicked I called Owen for help. Owen only felt sorry for us, mother and son. If you must blame anyone, blame me, just don't be angry with Owen." As she spoke, her eyes quickly reddened, as if she might burst into tears at any moment. The way she looked made it seem as though I were the one mistreating her. Looking at her tear-streaked face, I felt a surge of anger rise to my head, and my stomach churned violently. Her words, though seemingly an apology, were in fact pouring fuel on the fire with every sentence. Everyone kept reminding Owen of her pitiful situation as a widow with an orphaned child, emphasizing the justification and nobility of her actions. Meanwhile, I became the unreasonable, spiteful, jealous shrew. Sure enough, upon hearing Molly's words, Owen immediately shielded her behind him in a protective stance. With an impatient tone, he addressed me, his voice as cold as ice, as if I were the one intruding on someone else's family. "All right, stop making a fuss. Molly has her hands full taking care of the kid alone. If I hadn't gotten that call and rushed over today, what if the child had gotten lost? Could you handle that responsibility? Can't you just be reasonable? Your son has you with him. Do you really need to be so stubborn about this? Molly and the others only have us to rely on. Responsible? Always responsible. Is having me as their mother enough? So he can just naturally be absent? So he should pour all his time and energy into another woman and child who only have him? I stared at him and couldn't help but snap, "You really disgust me." Owen frowned at my words and opened his mouth to respond, but Molly cut him off. "Enough. We're in front of the kids. This isn't setting a good example. See? Molly's so much better. She knows how to give you some face. Forget it this time. You'd better watch your step. Owen shot me a furious look before dragging Molly and the others away. I clenched my fists, tempted to chase after them, but then remembered my son standing nearby. Owen hadn't even bothered to comfort him. I crouched down and looked at my son. Seeing his father like this, he still smiled at me. "Mom, it's okay. Having you by my side is enough. I'm a big kid now. What a terrible mother I am. Mason, if your father and I get divorced, you..." I hesitated before speaking, but before I could finish, my son took my hand. "Mom, I'll go with you. We don't need Dad anymore. He's not good to you. He only protects that woman." Hearing my son's words, tears streamed down my face. I should have made this decision sooner. Seeing how upset I was, my son rummaged through his little backpack. Soon, he pulled out a small, simply wrapped paper box. Inside was the little dinosaur I had bought for him. He handed me the box. "Mom, this is for you. Please don't cry. Don't be sad, Mom. I'll always be with you. I'll protect you." It made me even sadder. He was only 5 years old. My child, who should have been spoiled and carefree in my parents' arms, was instead forced to learn to read the room, to suppress their own desires, to become sensible. But why? It was my fault. I was too weak, too willing to tolerate, too quick to back down. Owen's so-called sense of justice has no right to sacrifice my child. I can't go on like this. I won't let my child suffer injustice. I roughly wiped the tears from my face with my sleeve. "Come on, let's keep playing. It's not worth getting upset over that bitch. Don't worry, whenever you want to come back, I'll bring you here to play. No need to wait for holidays. From now on, Mom will always be here with you." My son nodded vigorously. I took him out to play all day long. When I got home that night, I carefully placed my sleeping son in his crib. I waited for Owen to return, but he never came back all night. Early the next morning, I got up to make breakfast when the door opened. Owen walked in, glancing at me with a guilty look. A stifling silence fell over the room. He finally ventured to speak, his tone dripping with self-important arrogance. "Yesterday Seth cried and begged me not to leave, so I had to stay the night." Seeing I didn't respond, he added, "Molly, raising the kids alone is really tough. Seth cries constantly. I can't just abandon them, can I? You're a mother yourself. You should understand." He seemed to mistake my silence for consent, and even started making empty promises again. "I know I've put you and our son through a lot. So, in a couple of days, just a couple of days, I'll make it up to you both. I'll take you to the amusement park again." "Owen." My voice came out abruptly, calmly. "Let's get a divorce." "What did you say?" "I said I want a divorce." Owen's voice shot up. "Chloe. What the hell is wrong with you?" My words came out slow but clear. "I'm not trying to scare you. I'm serious. I want a divorce." "Divorce?" He sounded like he'd heard the most ridiculous joke in the world. "Just because I took Molly and her son to the amusement park yesterday? Is that it? Chloe, can you stop acting so childish? Stop throwing these unreasonable tantrums. I told you it was an accident. I was just helping out. Can you just be reasonable? Mature? Owen, tell me what being mature means?" I stared straight at him, my voice rising. "Mature? It means watching my own son, who's been eagerly anticipating Children's Day for a whole month, only to see his father go off and play the role of someone else's good father. You expect me to watch my husband abandon his wife and children to become someone else's pillar of support? Is this what you call being sensible? On what grounds? Owen, I'm telling you, I've had enough." Owen tried to argue back, jabbing his finger at my nose. "You're completely unreasonable. Molly's husband died for his country. He was a hero. Taking care of his widow and children is my responsibility. Do you even understand what responsibility means? What commitment means? You've changed. How could you become so cold-hearted? I laughed. So what? You can go pursue your great comradeship and sense of duty, but you have no right to demand my child's sacrifice. These past few years, all it took was one call from Molly and you'd drop everything to rush over with Mason. Owen, you know exactly why you did it. But your so-called taking care of us has long since lost its meaning. Owen was rendered speechless by my words, his face turning pale. He seemed to want to argue back, yet couldn't find any valid reason. His eyes darted around, unable to meet mine. Let's get a divorce, Owen. Do something good. Spare us, and spare yourself. Owen couldn't believe I was actually divorcing him. He seemed utterly baffled by how I could become such a stranger overnight, so utterly resolute. I won't agree to this divorce. Our son is still so young, he can't grow up without a father. You can't be this selfish. Just as I was about to retort, a soft creak sounded. The door to my son's bedroom swung open a crack. He stood in the doorway, clearly awakened by the heated argument. Owen, as if clutching at a lifeline, immediately crouched down and reached out his hand toward Mason. He wore a smile on his face, his voice unusually gentle. Come here, son, come to Daddy. Tell Mommy you don't want Daddy and Mommy to be apart, right? You want Daddy to stay so our family can be together, right? He tried to use the child to salvage the situation, but he was wrong. My son looked at Owen's outstretched hand, then at me, and walked toward me with unwavering resolve. Owen's smile froze, his hand awkwardly suspended midair. My son declared with absolute certainty, Dad, I don't want you to stay. You don't even like me. I'm going with Mom. Owen's expression froze instantly. After a moment, as if struck by some bitter realization, he shot me a hateful glare. Chloe, you taught him, didn't you? You corrupted Mason, made him hate me. Enough. Don't you know exactly what you've done? Don't try to pin this on me. It wasn't me who corrupted him. It was your repeated absences and neglect that led to this situation. You have no right to be his father. Owen still refused to accept it and flatly refused to agree to the divorce. With no other option, I had to find an opportunity to file for divorce. During this time, I began gathering evidence of his relationship with Molly. Owen stopped entering the master bedroom. He locked himself in the study or simply stayed out all night. He couldn't accept things had come to this, trying to force me to submit through cold silence. Little did he know, this icy silence only strengthened my resolve to leave. I continued to take my son to and from kindergarten as usual, cooked his meals, played with him, and worked hard to maintain a semblance of normalcy in our lives. My son was very understanding and acted just as he always had. I felt relieved. I had already gathered substantial evidence and was preparing to hire a lawyer to file for divorce. But it was precisely because of this momentary lapse that my son, left alone in his bedroom, called out repeatedly with no response. I rushed in to find him lying on his bed, his face flushed. I touched his forehead, it was burning hot. He definitely had a fever. My heart instantly leapt into my throat. I hurriedly dressed to take him to the hospital. The sound of my movements drew Owen out. He asked what was wrong, and I told him the child had a fever. He offered to drive us, and after glancing at the child, I agreed. Just then, another shrill ringtone pierced the air. Owen's body jerked violently, and he answered the phone almost reflexively. At that moment, my heart sank to a cold, icy bottom. Sure enough, seconds later, Owen's expression turned grim. He didn't even glance once more at my son, who was burning up in my arms. Molly's in trouble. Seth got soaked in the rain, has a high fever, and he's throwing up. She's out there alone with a baby, and in this downpour, she can't get a cab. She's practically losing her mind. I have to get there right away. Give Mason some fever reducer first. I'll be back right after dropping off Molly and the others. It won't take long. If it doesn't improve by the time I return, take Mason to the hospital. Just make sure he's taken care of. I slapped him across the face, scooped up my son, and hurried out the door. No need. I have my own car. Take good care of him, such a hollow phrase. I drove myself, strapped my son into his car seat. Upon arriving at the hospital, I immediately called for a doctor. The on-duty nurse and doctor rushed over, and the seasoned nurse swiftly took the child from my stiff arms. The doctor calmly analyzed the situation, swiftly issued instructions, and waited for a while. The child is temporarily stable. The high fever was caused by an acute upper respiratory infection. Fortunately, they were brought in promptly. The temperature is now starting to drop, but the child still needs to be hospitalized for observation for a few days. My heart finally settled back into my chest. My legs went weak, and I nearly collapsed to the floor, quickly grabbing hold of the wall beside me. Thank you, doctor. Standing by the hospital bed, I watched my son hooked up to an IV drip, my heart aching for him. It was because I was preoccupied with the divorce proceedings that I neglected him. Before long, Owen came over. His clothes were soaked through, his hair disheveled, and he looked frantic. His gaze immediately locked onto his son, who lay fast asleep in the hospital bed. His brow furrowed as he strode to the bedside, his voice tinged with urgency. How is our son? My silence offered him no response. Owen seemed provoked by my demeanor, his tone turning accusatory. I'm asking you, how is the child? What did the doctor say? I looked up at him, and he was momentarily speechless. How else could it be? Thankfully, it was delivered in time and left no lasting damage. Owen breathed a sigh of relief. I stood up and slapped him hard across the face. The slap landed squarely and mercilessly across Owen's face. He covered his cheek, staring at me in disbelief. My palm burned fiercely, my arm trembling slightly from the force of the blow. Owen, this slap is for my son. You don't deserve to be his father. When he needed you most, you went off to be with another woman and child. How can you call yourself a father? Owen stood frozen in place, his face turning pale. The child woke up from my shouting and looked at us dazedly. Mom, why is Daddy here? Didn't he go find someone else? Owen snapped his gaze toward his son and lunged toward the bedside. Mason, Daddy was wrong. Daddy shouldn't have left you behind. Will you forgive Daddy? Owen's voice trembled uncontrollably. He instinctively reached out, wanting to touch his son's small face. The boy turned his head away, refusing to be touched. I don't want you to. You're not my dad. My dad wouldn't treat me like this. Owen opened his mouth as if to protest, but every word seemed utterly feeble and laughably absurd in the face of his son's statement. I asked the nurse to watch the child for me and pulled Owen out of the hospital room. He stumbled back from my shove, crashing into the cold wall. You saw it too, Owen. Can't you just be human? Do you have any conscience left? After all this, you expect the child to forgive you? Is that even possible? Owen covered his face, his complexion as pale as paper, his eyes vacant and lost. He opened his mouth, a hoarse sound rising in his throat, yet no words came out. We'll get divorced tomorrow. The child stays with me. He said no more, finally collapsing to his knees against the wall. The next day, Owen and I got divorced. He walked away with nothing. My mother-in-law called, asking what had happened. I told her about my son's illness and Owen's affair. After a moment of silence, she apologized, saying she hadn't raised her son properly. She promised she wouldn't bother me anymore. My son's high fever finally subsided completely on the afternoon of the third day. He was now full of energy, and I told him that his father and I had divorced. Congratulations, Mom. Don't worry, I'll protect you even without Dad. After we returned home, he stopped asking about his father and became much more cheerful and lively. During this time, Owen never showed up again. No calls, no texts, as if he'd vanished into thin air. I didn't want him fighting me over the kids, nor did I want him reappearing in my life. So no contact was just fine. Days passed in a mix of busyness and calm. I quit that leisurely but low-paying job and found a position with a higher salary. For my child, I had to become stronger. Later, while picking up my son, I ran into Owen. The Owen standing before me was almost unrecognizable. After just a few short months apart, he'd lost a significant amount of weight, his face was unshaven, his hair greasy, and his clothes were wrinkled. I shielded my son behind me. "Owen, what are you doing here?" He kept apologizing profusely to me. Turns out Molly had deceived him. The child wasn't Owen's fallen comrades, but had been fathered by someone else. Owen discovered Molly had never severed ties with the child's biological father. Molly was only with him for his money, and even her feelings for him were fake. Because of Molly, Owen's chances of getting promoted are practically non-existent. After draining Owen's pockets, Molly's attitude toward him changed completely. She became cold and distant, treating him like a tool. She played me like a fool, and I poured my heart out like a complete idiot, raising someone else's bastard son as my own. I thought I was doing something so noble, so full of love and loyalty. Owen looked at me expectantly. "Please forgive me. Let's go home. I'm a worthless piece of trash, a good-for-nothing bastard. Hit me, curse me, anything. Just please forgive me. Let's just be a normal family. I'll never go looking for Molly again. Never." I gave him a cold laugh. "Owen, you don't know you're wrong. You just know you're miserable. Why should I forgive you? You don't deserve it. You're getting exactly what you deserve. You'd better not do anything to ruin our son's future, or I won't let you off the hook." Owen was utterly desperate. He glanced at me, then at our son, and ran off like a madman. Later, Owen's former colleague approached me. He said Owen had been struck and killed by a passing vehicle while arguing with Molly and her lover. Friends who once knew us both offered sympathetic glances. I received him calmly, saw him off calmly, and said little. All those grievances and grudges have vanished completely with the passing of those involved. This outcome is best. Very good, utterly peaceful. The future stretches long ahead. I'm beginning to believe that wounds will eventually scab over, and we will ultimately embrace a brand new life.